My name is Draško, and I'm 3D artist. I'm here to show you something about ZBrush.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ruslan. I will be also showing something in ZBrush. So, Draško will start.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, how you can see, I opened the ZBrush. The first things that you see when you open the ZBrush, it's pretty much confusing tools, menus, and everything. But like in other software that you will use, you will not find the way. You will not use all the menus, all the buttons, and everything. Many of you probably, if not use, heard about the ZBrush. It's a beginning is imaginary like a sculpting tool, but very fast he's become much more. He become now, we can easily say that is like a standard in the gaming, movie, and probably in much more industries. We don't have too much time, so I will start immediately because the modeling of something will take some time. So, okay. This is the working canvas for the ZBrush. Excuse me, I will talk something technical stuff, but this is the 3D modeling. And the first, on the right side, you have the basic elements that you can start, but it's not important that use that. You can import your meshes that already have. This is, you have something like a sphere, cube, cylinder, and everything. I will start with the sphere. And before I start modeling, I will choose some of the brushes, and probably I will use just a few brushes. Let me choose something on this. This is the move tool that is important. This is the insert sphere, and also the trim dynamics. This is my actually way how to get something very quickly, but you can find your own way, so it's not mandatory. And also the very important brush, it's that we will probably use is standard DEM standard brush. He has this very pinch alpha that is very useful, and okay, and I will just a little bit adjust my own settings because I want to show you each step that I going through. I'll just a little bit slow down the focal shift and increase the intensity of this. So we'll have something like before we start, we must convert this is something that we can work with the brushes that make polymesh 3D, and we switch to symmetry because we'll not waste time modeling on both sides. So yeah, this is this. Also on the trim dynamics, the very important thing when you adjust some settings is this auto masking. I'm sorry, it's a little bit confusing. Back face mask. That's important that when you work on the thin surface, you will not affect the back sides of the elements. That means when you work something like this or just on this, you'll not affect. Sorry. You will not affect on the back side of these meshes. But if you turn off this, when you work on some tool, sorry, this is too big. Just this. Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You will have the impact on the other side. Yeah, the great thing of the ZBrush, you have this undo slider that you always can back to beginning. Okay, that's it. And just to show you, yeah, I also turn off this dynamic draw size because that means when you moving closer or closer your sphere or whatever you're doing or mesh, they will adjust the size of the brush. But I don't need that. Okay. So when I have this all, I can easily start something. And how I work, I will explain you what I'm also doing. So, yeah, I call this like a 3D concepting because I use the pretty much big brushes and working very quickly and rough. Okay, I can start this. And the first, you're just moving up, down, and finding something that you like. The also very important things, it's just a device a couple times, and yes, this Dynamesh, that's mean when you every time when you're pulling the polygons of this, you will stretch them, and after that you will have some artifacts. Just to show you the example, you see, because now you have this very big polygons that they're bigger than others, and when you start to modeling on them, you have things like this, you see, and because of that you need a dynamic mesh. That's mean, sorry, that's mean every time when you turn on a dynamic mesh, that means that he's recalculate this surface and make all polygons the same. You see, like this. And
yeah,
this
topology is always even.
Yeah, the topology. So there's a little trick with that, because when you pull or draw mask on empty space, that means that he will recalculate your mesh, but also the little trick with that, he used two algorithms to calculate this surface. So if you calculate when you're holding the control button, he will use one of the algorithm, but when you also holding and left control and left the mouse, he will calculate the other algorithm. That is probably for one, maybe useful one times. Okay, so I will go to beginning now this. Okay, and start modeling something to show you quickly how this become. Make this, and also.
Meanwhile, I can tell you my impression of ZBrush. When it appeared, a lot of artists and sculptors started to come into industry, into 3D industry, gaming industry and stuff. Because before that, in the beginning of 2000s, only technical people worked, mostly technical people worked as 3D artists. So, and you can immediately see the change in the production, in the art pieces that were made by with the ZBrush. when really good artists started to use it. So it's really good software. And it was very confusing in the beginning because it's unlike anything else. And for people who had some background with the different 3D software, it was nightmare at the beginning. So for newcomers to ZBrush, it would be much easier because some say it's very intuitive somehow. I don't know why, but okay. So if you have no other 3D experience, it probably would be fine.
How you can see, there are not too much science in this. You're just pulling, inserting, and you're working on, like, you, I don't know, feel that you must do so. Oh. Sorry. Elements. Every time when I draw the mask outside of this mesh, he recalculate, like I said before. He make the Dynamesh. You know, you insert mesh, he recalculate this, and you have the same mesh again. This is the part of the mesh. I mean, every time when you insert this sphere, he make the new mesh, but he also make the new poly group. The poly group is also the important things in the ZBrush. They use for divide some elements when you use. So you can see every time when I draw the sphere, I have the new poly group. After this, you can select by poly group, you see, or you can merge them in the one poly group, like group visible, and you have just one poly group. Yes. This is also the important thing in the ZBrush. I'm sorry I don't tell you that. So, yeah, like I say, you just pulling, inserting, and everything, and you make this very quickly. So it is pretty much this, just to show you. Just to increase the number of polygons. Okay. And also, when you hold the shift button, you make the smooth. You see, this is the problem. I mean, this is the great stuff. Okay.
What is good about ZBrush that it really, when you learn it, it really feels natural. So it just like a tool in your hands, and you just follow your feeling. You don't notice that you're working in some 3D software, but it's just like a pencil in your hand.
Because of that, I call this like actually 3D concepting art, because very quickly you achieve something. But at least for me, when I learn the new software, is always the problem, because you spend so much time before you get something that you can show someone. And now I'll show you this, the importance of the poly groups. When I make this, this is the eyes, actually, and you have these transpose tools that you can move, rotate, and scale like in other software. Now I have these two poly groups, and now I can separate them in the. So I have the separated eyes from the head. See, and now I can continue working. Yeah, just to tell you that also the important and many very powerful things in this is masking, and probably when you start working in the ZBrush, you will use mask very often. So yeah, something like this, and we can make the eyelids something like this.
Also, ZBrush is developing very fast, so it's really, because of its popularity, probably the creators of ZBrush are working very hard to satisfy users, and most of the changes are very useful. So because it's based on people, on artists who uses it all the time. So if, for example, if you compare with Maya or some other software, most of the changes are very subtle and not always positive. In ZBrush, you see how it grows, and it's getting better all the time. So with every new feature, it opens a huge amount of new possibilities. So this is why it's really it's good to invest time in learn this program, because it is popular now, and it's going to be maybe even more popular because it's very good and it's developing.
Also, when you're modeling, the most used the buttons is Shift, Control, and Alt button. With Shift, you will smoothing this mesh. With Control, you withdraw the mask, and with the Alt, it's actually the opposite of your ZBrush, like it's something like you have the trim, and you will trim something with this brush on this mesh. And when you hold the Alt, you will adding the mesh masses actually on this mesh, something like this. And I have this, sorry. Something like this. And also the great thing about this is something, just a second, the polygroup, group visible, merge. Now we'll merge all the elements and use this big brushes to adjust size, shape, and everything you need. And how you see, this is going very fast. So it's important when you start like professional to doing this. Many of your leaders, art leader, or they want to see some result very quickly. And this is the great when you have something to, when you have tasks like something, okay, change something in 5 minutes or something like this. So, yep, this.
Usually in gaming industry, when you work in a 3D department, you use different softwares, but ZBrush Face is usually the most pleasant one, the most creative and nice.
Yeah, because they're so, looks like for me, they're so childish, you know, like working with the real clay. Justin is stuck here. Sorry.
Who is this?
I don't know, I just start.
Somebody who didn't see your dog.
It's like you're working with clay, but you're not getting dirty and mess around.
This is the clip brush. That means that he not actually the clip, he all just pull all the mesh in the one plane. I can explain you you see this when you clipping the brushes, and all this. Before I say all these brushes and clipping mask you get when you just press one of the buttons like Control Shift, or you use the combination. So when you hold the Control, you have the mask brush, and when you left click on the mask brush, you have the different masking brushes. Like you have this that you can paint on the mesh, or this like mask lasso tool or something like that. Also, when you combine hold in the same time Control and the Shift, you have this clipping brush and also the select brush. Something like you want to, I don't know, select or
You can hide,
you can
part
hide
of
some part
of the model.
this. But all the things you just happen when you combine these brushes, something like this. So that's it, pretty much this.
By the way, ZBrush is not expensive. It's for this kind of software, it's rather cheap, which is really good
You can use this
for the
like,
community.
make the basic shapes for that, like. And this is before. After this, you can start to adding details and everything. Also, the great thing that you can also the pose, the character, something you can add some the blend shapes, like making the smile or the angry, whatever. Something like this. Also, just a second.
Also, very good thing is that you can print your model on a 3D printer later on if you want to hold it in your hands. This is also a good thing.
Just to show you very quickly you can change all the characters from something this for into something totally different, something like this. sorry.
ZBrush is good not just for modeling, also for texturing. You can paint your model, and this tool is getting also very, very popular. So in 10 years, ZBrush will be the only software. You will go shopping there in ZBrush probably.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, this is takes some time to make. So. Just quickly. You can excuse me. This is not my ZBrush, so many things I.
Yeah, ZBrush is a very customizable program, but if you get to the ZBrush that is not customized by you, then oops.
Yeah, that is pretty much this. And I have something like this. This quite different character, and you'll get this in the I don't know 10 minutes. Also, like Ruslan says, you can use this for the texturing. It's not okay. Many of artists use this like final textures, and you will get pretty much great result for that. I will just quickly show you how you can quickly paint this character. It will not probably the best painting that you will see, but you will recognize something. So yeah, the first I will choose one of the many materials that you have in the ZBrush. I will use this skin shader because he's white and he's very easily to draw on them or painting. So the first time I will now use the standard. I'll just adjust some settings for that. That means that you have these 3 buttons that you can see them. Yes, that means when you turn off one of them, that means that you're painting on the material in the same time and also in the RGB channel. This means that you're just painting the RGB, and this means that you're just painting the materials. That means that when I just a second, the plugin.
You see, it's a very deep program. It has materials or whatever.
Okay.
Else.
So now I fill this object with the materials and the color. That means when I turn to other materials, he will not change. But when I choose something like this material and choose this material, that means that I can paint the material on this mesh. So also just a second. But for now, we'll just use the color. Also, just the color and the same material. And I don't know. Just paint like this. And sorry. And when you hold the control, you will. Sorry, no. What something? Sorry. Control is stuck in my on my keyboard. So yeah, you will paint something like this, but how line is sharp is depending of the density of the mesh. So this is just a polygon painting. You don't have any texture or something like that. So if you have something like, I don't know.
Instead of pixels, you have polygons. So
yeah, something like this. But if you slow down, I mean, decrease the size on the number of the polygons, you have something like this. And that is bad. Just go back. Okay. I paint something like this. And you have this, can adjust this intensity. Yeah, just you can read this RGB intensity of this. So you can make something like this. This is like typical painting. I mean, the 2D artist will make this better probably than me. So
typical 3D painting.
Yeah, something like this, and just increase intensity. Something like this. And this is quickly, it's not so precise. So, oh, sorry for that. This is something like just something like this. Okay. How I said before, this is just a concept.
Bosnian national hero.
I think I started like a Chinese, but okay. Let's say this is Bosnian. Ruslan, you're here to help me, not making jokes. Yeah, this is something like this.
Nice.
And here's something on the top. It's not important. Yep. I just like I use this on this head. You probably can use all the body, and I will show you like I make before. This is something the similar process. You can see I just start very rough and can I make this old image? Yeah, okay. Okay, this is left, right. Okay, I just start with these basic shapes. You can see, and the big challenge for me it was his pants because. At least for me, the biggest problem is how to draw these wrinkles. And before I start use the new software like name Marvelous Designer, maybe someone know of them, and you can on the beginning I use this just a reference from the internet and start modeling. Like looking of them. After this, you can see you all the time when you adding the new parts, you will moving body up, down, left, just to find the proportions that you like it and that you imagine it for them. You see, and after that, I adding the details, and every time I changing something on the head, the position of the head, the position, the size, everything, and something. I came to this, the modeling. After this, you can use this for the posing. I also use the ZBrush for the posing of the characters. Now, this is just a preview because after this, in this phase, I make the low poly of that. That you can easily manipulate with the polygons and everything. And I can just pose in the ZBrush like to have the preview for the low poly. And this is the final render of this character. But I make this in the Maya. I mean the render of that.
Nice.
So, thank you.
Really nice.
Oh, yeah. That is pretty much this. So, if you have something also to add, probably.
Yeah, I can show how to pose the character.
Yeah, you can.
I'm going to show you how to put the character into pose because when it's like in this so-called T pose, it looks pretty dead. So. Pose is another stage of expressing the character. The next stage will be animation that shows the whole character in the end. So now we have a model of a girl, and as you see, it consists from different subtools. So what I need to do is to combine them into one. So for that, ZBrush has a very nice plugin called Transpose Master. Okay, so now we can start. So before you start, it's always good to look for reference. In this particular way, it was very nice time. So I picked this one to make it to make the pose, to make a simple pose, because we don't have much time. We can start. We will be using mostly we'll be using rotate tool to follow the natural motion of the body, actually, like to be anatomically correct, not in order not to fuck up with the proportions. Here, for easier work, I assigned different polygroups for different body parts to select it easier. So let's start. First, I want to make this nice S curve here. Namely, I wanted to start from this. Now let's move it back. And then we'll move. And then we'll goddamn, stand that. Yeah, here. At home I have everything on shortcuts. Okay, now we can proceed. It's important to put the transformer pivot into a proper position where you're supposed to have real joints. Like for example, here it's important to put the pivot where the actual joint is for correct transformation. So let's move to another leg. It's good to know how the body is structured for easier, so that you can imagine how it would behave in real life.
Yeah, and also the most of the time in the production you're spending on something like this, like making the pose, correcting something, and when you get something to modeling and making from beginning, it is you become very happy with that.
It's... Aha, ja, lahko vprašanje, ja, valjda. No.
How much time do you spend per character in production?
From big
Start to finish, from rough concept to rigged and
everything.
animation ready character.
Yeah, for the rig and animation, don't really know how much time they spend. Depends how complicated rig you need and on which kind of animation you will use. But on the modeling, like texturing, there also depends on the concepting art, but for that basic modeling, you will not spend most of 2 days, something like this. I'm talking about the concept modeling, like I make for these 2 characters on the beginning. So
with remeshing,
uh,
or just high poly?
basically just a high poly, just high poly. When you will have the concept artist or lead artist that will comment on something. So
They paid for this to comment all the time. Oh. No. Okay, we can continue for a while. So I can show you what I did before, just to save the time. I put the character into a pose. It's a rough posing with a lot of weird stuff is going on with the mesh, but still we get the line, and it's a bit exaggerated, but still. So you get the feeling. So it's quite easy, like 20 minutes, half an hour, to pose a character, and then you will need some time to polish it. But now it looks much more natural. I mean, live, live. So then, when you're happy. When you're happy with the character, then when you fix all these problems with mesh and knees, elbows, then you put it back to your previous multi-subtool level. So it looks like this. So the same huge amount of subtools, which you can continue using, but the character is in a pose. So we can assign some simple.
And also important when you're modeling something, or when you're making the expression of some characters, it's important to make a little bit extreme, because every time when you converting remesh on everything in the low poly, you will lose some shape. So it's better to make a little bit extreme.
Yeah, it's better to exaggerate. It's art, so you exaggerate those parts which you want to be the most expressive, which you use to express your ideas. So you see, it's extreme pose. You have never you will never see this in reality, but for sake of expression, you should always exaggerate.
Yeah, because the low poly and also the texture will, how to say, eat some of the details. Mm-hmm. It is important to add a little bit more.
And then a improvement team will eat another half of the details. Usually designers says that it's better to exaggerate it, because your art director or manager will calm it down. So it's better to overdo it so that you get a proper result in the end. Because
like you make the obviously a mistake that someone will catch on that. Mm-hmm. And don't see the other problem.
Hey, I know you both know how to draw in 2D, and for a concept phase, do you still use the 2D, or you just go straight into ZBrush and start sculpting and concepting there?
For me, it's still 2D, faster.
Because the concept artists, they should be the 2D artists, and they're probably 2D artists, most of them, and yeah, we get from them this concepting and just to transfer in the 3D. But on the end, we just you try to transfer all the ideas that concept artists have on the 2D, and always we will find something somewhere in between, because when you rotating character or that mesh that you get from on the 2D concept, you will have the quite different shapes. If you know what
and people are more used to use 2D as a concept, because in 2D, when you draw, you focus on some details. The rest, you just blur or whatever, and the guy who is looking at it will imagine it. But in 3D, just you always have beginning and the end of the shape, so you cannot fake it just there. If there is no detail, there is no detail. People are not used to imagine it by themselves.
I have a question. How do you approach the problem if you're using these characters for games? For instance, you might want to have higher density of polygons in the areas, in some areas where the joints are. How do you approach this problem?
During the remesh, retopology of the character, then you do it by hand usually. So you use another 3D software to retopology the character. So it can be done also automatically. Even here in ZBrush, there are good tools for this. But for production model, you usually do it by hand, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it's like it's at least a third of the time you spend for modeling in ZBrush to remesh it and make it a production character. Any more questions?
Can we export directly high poly to Maya or 3D Max?
Yeah, there are two ways. You can
But
export.
Isn't this too many polys for animation and production?
Well, you can export, but your Maya will crash then. So it's better to use a very good plugin called Decimation Master if you want to export high poly model.
You will probably before you export, you will remesh your ZBrush mesh, because when you drawing if you think to remesh in the Maya, when you're drawing in polygon in the Maya, you will probably not use all details that you will draw in the ZBrush, like little screen wrinkles or pores or something like that. Yeah, you will probably decimate, how do you call in the ZBrush, you will decimate or lower down the poly numbers to something that Maya can accept.
Yeah, or any other
3000.
program. So, for example, a very good program for retopology is Topogan. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah,
so,
it's a great.
Usually I do this decimation master optimization here in ZBrush, and then export it and retopologize there in Topogan.
Yeah, and also you have the external programs like XNormal that you can import the polygon with 20 million polygons, and because you will probably use the high polygon just to transfer the maps of the high polygon mesh, like the details that you draw on them. So yeah, you will probably use that small external software for that.
Because usually what you do in ZBrush, it's not the final result. It's like a model that contains information, and then you have to apply this information on a production model, so-called.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Tanya
Thank
is
you
waving. Thank you for the
attention.
patience.